Let me ask you, are you dealing with the same people committing the same crimes over and over?
I've been doing this about 25 years. I think I've seen third generation folks come through, that are from those families and things. There's a population that are the same folks committing crimes as they go through the system and come back out. Drugs are at the center of our property crime, why our property crime is so high. So whether they're in treatment and doing well in recovery, or they jump back into using again and stuff, that can come and go over time, as they say.
Now, and so the offenses that you are arresting for the most, would you say those are drug related?
Up to this point?
Yeah, I think at the center of most things, drugs and alcohol and/or both are a component of a lot of crime.
Do you see that changing now? Do you anticipate that it's going to change because of some of the, well, we don't know if there are going to be new rules inside Grants Pass, but some of the new rules in the state about marijuana?
It's going to be interesting as we evolve. I don't think anybody, I think part of the challenge of the legalization of marijuana has been to try to anticipate what that's going to look like. Last time we talked, you guys were talking about what do you do with the half-smoked joint in the ashtray, whereas an open container of beer constitutes well, those are the things that'll have to evolve with time and how we do that. Right. Measuring impairment, we certainly can recognize it, know how to test for it, but there isn't a chemical test other than the urinalysis that has to be sent off to the lab, much like the ready breath analysis that's done when you're driving under the influence. So I think we're at the very beginning to start to, as a society, look and see what the cause and effects are. People in the treatment community have an opinion that it's not a good thing. If you're in recovery and one of your triggers and how you got into drugs might have been marijuana, your neighbor growing it or somebody smoking it in and around, which becomes much more abundant now that it's becoming legal, can be a trigger for people who are addicted to marijuana. And some will say, well, it's not addicting. There are many people in treatment for just marijuana use, and your treatment community can speak to that and how that may affect. Right now, it's all hypothetical. We really don't know, but certainly they who are experienced in dealing with addictions and people who are in drug treatment and stuff have ideas and opinions about how that will look.
So the drug criminals or the people that you are dealing with as a result of drugs, would you say that that is more, say, heroin, methamphetamine, those type of drugs as opposed to marijuana, or how would you?
Absolutely, and so one of the things I'll preclude that with, one of my friends who's a treatment provider has talked about new studies that actually show, though, that not everybody who's using marijuana is just using marijuana, meaning they're also using heroin and methamphetamine and kind of that drug cocktail. I would say that what drives the theft and property crime issues are the drugs that can't be gotten by the abundance of marijuana that is certainly here in the Rogue Valley. So heroin and methamphetamine, which now comes mostly from Mexico because it comes in so cheaply, which should tell you about our marijuana trade, because they gave up trying to mule marijuana from Mexico because we have so much of it here, they really can't compete and it's not worth their time. But heroin and methamphetamine exclusively, mostly coming from Mexico. The addicts have to have that, so therefore they have to have an income to be able to purchase that, and that's what drives the property crime. If marijuana is so abundant and easy to get as it is here in the Rogue Valley, the need for property crimes to support smoking marijuana isn't so much.
Then Mike is right. Capitalism will triumph over everything.
Yes, we should start manufacturing our own heroin and methamphetamine here. That way we don't have to pay to have it imported. People can get freebies when they're manufacturing the stuff. They won't have to pursue that. That's a good idea.
There are people who feel, they're convinced that the I-5 corridor is a drug corridor. Do you believe that's true?
I believe it's a major thoroughfare for transporting illegal narcotics, absolutely. And the reason I say that is that's true on any major highway, and if you go to Florida and South Florida, and basically the connection between New York and Florida, same thing. We certainly use our interstate highways to traffic drugs from state to state, and I-5 is a straight shot all the way down to Mexico. So
well, we can look right out the door here and we can see I-5 running by. Does that mean that we are one of the a prime stop for everything but marijuana?
Well, I think so, yeah. And back in the day, when OSP had a full complement here, in fact, dating myself, but 25 years ago, there was 26 state troopers working in Grants Pass office. And some of the interdiction stops on I-5 with Lonnie Shell up at the, now it's Texaco, up at the north end of town, two of those OSP troopers, it wasn't uncommon to have a car they had taken off down there dropping a gas tank and pulling kilos of cocaine or whatever drugs or cash. I remember one night specifically when they had their substation in our office, counting $240,000 taken out of a trunk of a car on a traffic stop. So that their interdictions on I-5 looking for those things that tell you that something's not right, and stopping those individuals who, if you separated two parties in a car, they had opposing stories as where they were going and what they were doing, and one thing led to another. So that's been 25 years ago, and certainly today it's true that that is, for any commerce, legal or illegal, is certainly going to be a way that drugs are transported.